All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I'm Anuja Kumar and with me is Vaibhav Jyotsna Srivastav. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi leaves for Dhaka on a 2-day visit to Bangladesh. Says India shares deep cultural, linguistic and people-to-people ties with Bangladesh. First phase of assembly elections to be held in Assam and West Bengal tomorrow. BJP releases list of 11 candidates for Lok Sabha and Assembly by polls. Former Mumbai Police Commissioner moves Bombay High Court seeking CBI probe against Maharashtra Home Minister Anil Deshmukh. CBI conducts searches at more than 100 places across the country in connection with bank fraud amounting to over 3,700 crore rupees. New Delhi says India will continue to supply COVID-19 vaccines to partner countries in a phased manner. US President Joe Biden says America and its allies will hold Beijing accountable on Taiwan, South China Sea and other issues. US and UK impose new sanctions on military-owned companies in Myanmar in response to military coup. Indian shuttlers Kidambi Srikanth, Saina Nehwal and Ira Sharma advance to quarter-finals of Orleans Masters Badminton in Paris. And in cricket, India take on England in second ODI in Pune this afternoon. As the number of COVID cases are on the rise again, we appeal to our listeners not to lower the guard, follow all the precautions and all those above 45 years to get vaccinated without any hesitation. Stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki doori for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has left for Dhaka on a 2-day visit to Bangladesh. In his statement, Mr. Modi said he is happy that his first visit after the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic will be to our friendly neighbouring country, with which India shares deep cultural, linguistic and people-to-people ties. Mr. Modi said India is committed to provide abiding support to Bangladesh for its economic and developmental strides. The visit is in connection with the commemoration of 3 epochal events, including Mujib Borsho, the birth centenary of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. The other events are 50 years of the establishment of diplomatic ties between India and Bangladesh and 50 years of Bangladesh's War of Liberation. During the visit, the Prime Minister will attend the National Day program of Bangladesh as the guest of honour. He will also call on Bangladesh President Mohammad Abdul Hamid. Foreign Minister of Bangladesh, Dr. A.K. Abdul Momin, will call on the Prime Minister. This will be the first visit to a foreign country since the outbreak of the COVID pandemic, which highlights the priority India attaches to Bangladesh. The Prime Minister had last visited Bangladesh in 2015. We spoke to our correspondent Yogesh Pandya just before the departure of Prime Minister Modi to Dhaka. Yogesh, what are the engagements of Prime Minister during his Bangladesh visit?
As we know, Prime Minister Modi will be the guest of honor at the National Day celebration of Bangladesh in Dhaka today. It will also commemorate the birth centenary of the father of the nation of Bangladesh, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Prime Minister will also visit Bangabandhu's Samadhi in Tungipara to pay his respect. He will also visit the ancient Jasoreswari Kali temple, one of the 51 Shakti Peeth in Puran tradition, to offer prayers to Goddess Kali. He will also visit Orakanti and interact with the representatives of the Matua community. Apart from this, Prime Minister will also have substantive discussions with Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. He will also meet Bangladesh President Abdul Hamid and other dignitaries.
How important is Mr. Modi's visit to Dhaka?
This is the first foreign visit of Prime Minister Modi after COVID-19 pandemic, which itself signifies its importance. Mr. Modi is visiting Bangladesh at the invitation of his Bangladeshi counterpart Sheikh Hasina. Moreover, Bangladesh is our friendly neighboring country, which shares deep cultural, linguistic and people-to-people ties with India.
Yogesh, tell us about the areas in which the 2 countries are expected to strengthen cooperation.
India and Bangladesh are likely to sign several MOUs during Prime Minister Modi's visit. This will be in the field of disaster management and cooperation between some institutions of the two countries. The focus will remain on people-to-people contact and strengthening the bilateral ties on the strong bonding of history, culture, language and other similarities. India will also extend its support to Bangladesh's remarkable economic development. India will also express its solidarity and support for Bangladesh's fights against COVID-19.
Tell us about the personal chemistry between Prime Minister Modi and his Bangladeshi counterpart Sheikh Hasina.
Both the leaders first met in 2014 on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Since then, both the leaders already met several times and enjoying strong personal bonding, which has further strengthened the bilateral ties between the two neighboring countries. Prime Minister Modi described Bangladesh as a key pillar of India's neighborhood first policy, while his Bangladeshi counterpart Sheikh Hasina also called India a true friend.
Thank you, Yogesh. Campaigning for the first phase of polls in Assam concluded yesterday evening, and voting will be held tomorrow for 47 assembly constituencies. People will exercise their right to franchise in more than 11,530 polling booths spread across the state. A report.
As the intense election campaigning has subsided from last evening, now all turn to the voters of Assam, who will decide the fate of contesting candidates in voting process to be held tomorrow in first phase election in Assam. The concerned district administration has set up all necessary polls-related structures, and polling personnel started journey to their designated polling stations. Meanwhile, the police has also intensified patrolling and checking in various places to avoid any unwanted situation. The Assam Assembly election will have 3 phases, and the counting will be held on 2nd May. JJ Thoksom, AIR News, Dibrugarh.
In Assam, the Election Commission is fully geared up to conduct the first phase of assembly elections tomorrow. Chief Electoral Officer Nitin Khare said that a total of 264 candidates, including 23 women, are in the fray for the first phase. The CEO said all COVID-related protocols will be followed during the voting process.
We are fully prepared to conduct free, fair, safe and smooth, peaceful elections in Assam. We are going to polls in the first phase district on 27th, that is day after tomorrow. And for last few months our preparations are going on, and we have taken all the preparatory measures, preventive measures, so that the voters can come and cast their votes without any fear, without any inconvenience.
The first phase of assembly elections will be held in West Bengal tomorrow. 30 assembly constituencies spread over 5 districts will go to the polls in this phase. These districts are East Mednipur, West Mednipur, Purulia, Jhargram and Bankura. Polling parties will reach the polling stations by this evening. Our correspondent has filed this report.
The Election Commission has deployed a large number of paramilitary forces to ensure a peaceful and fearless environment for the polling. The borders of the state are being closely monitored by the security personnel. Vehicles entering the borders of the districts and cities are being checked by the paramilitary personnel in the presence of magistrates. Meanwhile, senior leaders of BJP, Trinamool Congress and Sanyukt Morcha have shifted their election campaign in those constituencies where polling will take place in the second and third phase. Jitendra Dwivedi, AIR News, Medinipur, West Bengal.
Holding elections during a pandemic requires extraordinary efforts. The Election Commission of India is taking a series of measures to hold the 5 state assembly general elections in a safe manner by following all the protocols that are in force. Here is a report about the preventive measures being taken in the poll-bound Tamil Nadu.
The officials, aided by a series of preventive measures, are confident of holding the polls in a safe and secure manner. Voters will be allowed after thermal screening. To avoid crowding, the number of voters for every booth has been brought down to a maximum of 1,000. As a result, the number of polling booths has been augmented to about 89,000, an increase of more than 20,600. To avoid direct contact with the EVM button, every elector is to be given a hand glove. The vulnerable sections, like those above 80 years of age, the differently abled, and the COVID-19 positive patients, are given the option to cast postal ballots. The duration of voting has been extended by an hour, and the last 1 hour is earmarked for the COVID positive patients and those with its symptoms. Jai Singh, AIR News, Chennai.
In Kerala, the distribution of ballot papers for those who are unable to go to the polling booths for the upcoming assembly elections will begin today. More from our Thiruvananthapuram correspondent.
The facility will be for those above 80 years of age, COVID patients and those in quarantine and for the physically challenged. Special polling teams will distribute the postal ballots at the voters' residence. Eligible voters will get prior information regarding the day and time of visit. Chief Electoral Officer Parambi said that the postal ballots have been allotted to 4,444 people in the state. The vote should be casted in a confidential manner by the voter and the ballot paper should be returned immediately after keeping it inside a closed envelope. The whole procedure will be filmed on video. However, the casting of votes in the postal voting compartment will not be filmed. Meanwhile, the postal voting for essential service people will begin from 28th to 30th of March. As just 11 days are left for assembly polls, campaigning of three major fronts, LDF, UDF and NDA, is in full swing in the state. Mayusha for AR News from Thiruvananthapuram.
The BJP has released names of 11 candidates for Lok Sabha and Assembly by-polls. The party has fielded Mangala Suresh Angadi for Belgaum Lok Sabha by-poll in Karnataka and K. Ratnaprabha for the Tirupati Lok Sabha in Andhra Pradesh. Danga Narayan Singh will contest from the Madhupur Assembly seat in Jharkhand, Ashrit Pattanayak in Pipili seat in Odisha, Rahul Singh in Damoh, Madhya Pradesh and Deepti Maheshwari from the Rajsamand seat in Rajasthan. By-elections for 2 Lok Sabha seats and 14 assembly constituencies in various states will be held on the 17th of April. Former Mumbai Police Commissioner Parambi Singh has filed a public interest litigation in the Bombay High Court seeking an immediate and unbiased probe against Maharashtra Home Minister Anil Deshmukh. This comes a day after the Supreme Court asked Singh to approach the Bombay High Court with his grievances. The apex court had said that Singh's claims that Anil Deshmukh had asked police officer Sachin Vaze to collect 100 crore rupees from bars and restaurants as extortion money was quite serious. In his plea filed before the High Court, the former Mumbai top cop has reiterated that Deshmukh held several meetings with Mumbai police officials in February this year. Seeking a CBI probe, the plea added that Deshmukh regularly interfered with police functioning and often misused his office.
The Central Bureau of Investigation has conducted searches at more than 100 places across India in connection with more than 30 cases of bank fraud amounting to over 3,700 crore rupees. These searches are part of special drive to book the fraudsters on the complaints received from different public sector banks. The complainant banks include Indian Overseas Bank, Union Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, Punjab National Bank, State Bank of India, IDBI, Canara Bank, Indian Bank and the Central Bank of India. The cities or towns where the searches were conducted include Kanpur, Delhi, Ghaziabad, Mathura, Noida, Gurugram, Chennai, Tiruvarur, Vellore, Tirupur, Bangalore, Guntur, Hyderabad, Bellary, Vadodara, Kolkata, West Godavari, Surat, Mumbai, Bhopal, Nimadi, Tirupati, Vishakhapatnam, Ahmedabad, Rajkot, Karnal, Jaipur and Sri Ganganagar. Indian Coast Guard has recovered heroin worth 3,000 crore rupees from a Sri Lankan vessel in Lakshadweep Sea. The Coast Guard detected 3 suspicious boats off Minicoy Islands and intercepted them. Search of the 3 vessels led to the seizure of 300 kilogram high-grade heroin, 5 AK-47 rifles with 1,000 live rounds from Sri Lankan fishing boat Ravi Hansi. The estimated value of narcotics in the international market is approximately 3,000 crore rupees. All the 3 boats along with 19 crew were escorted to Vizhinjam, Kerala for further joint investigation. This is the second major anti-drug trafficking operation undertaken by the Coast Guard on west coast of India within a fortnight.
The Reserve Bank of India, RBI, has announced special measures for the annual closing of government accounts for the current financial year. A special clearing will be conducted for collection of government checks on the 31st of March 2021. RBI has instructed all agency banks to keep their designated branches open for over-the-counter transactions relating to government transactions up to the normal working hours on the 31st of March. For reporting government transactions to RBI, the reporting window will be open till the midnight of 31st March. Transactions through NEFT and RTGS can also be carried out up to the midnight on the day. You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi leaves for Dhaka on a 2-day visit to Bangladesh. says India shares deep cultural, linguistic and people-to-people ties with Bangladesh. First phase of assembly elections to be held in Assam and West Bengal tomorrow. BJP releases list of 11 candidates for Lok Sabha and the Assembly by polls. Former Mumbai Police Commissioner moves Bombay High Court seeking CBI probe against Maharashtra Home Minister Anil Deshmukh. CBI conducts searches at more than 100 places across the country in connection with bank fraud amounting to over 3,700 crore rupees. New Delhi says India will continue to supply COVID-19 vaccines to partner countries in a phased manner. US President Joe Biden says America and its allies will hold Beijing accountable on Taiwan, South China Sea and other issues. US and UK impose new sanctions on the military-owned companies in Myanmar in response to the military coup. Indian shuttlers Kidambi Srikanth, Saina Nehwal and Ira Sharma advance to the quarterfinals of Orleans Masters Badminton in Paris. And in cricket, India take on England in the second ODI in Pune this afternoon. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
The cumulative number of COVID-19 vaccine doses administered in the country has crossed 5 crore 46 lakh. These include over 80 lakh healthcare workers who have taken the first dose and around 51 lakh healthcare workers who have taken the second dose. Over 85 lakh frontline workers have taken the first dose and around 33 lakh frontline workers have also taken the second dose. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has said that all precautionary steps should be taken to contain the COVID-19 as festival season is approaching. He stressed on effective contact tracing and testing ahead of Holi. Chief Minister also said effective vaccination of targeted groups will stop COVID infection. More from our Lucknow correspondent.
While reviewing the COVID situation in a state through video conferencing with all divisional commissioners, district magistrates, senior police officials and officials of health department yesterday, Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath said that all possible steps to prevent and treatment of COVID-19 be taken in a state. He said that people will return to their homes on the occasion of Holi festival, so corona testing at bus stands, railway stations and airports be effectively ensured. Chief Minister got the latest information from the district magistrates of Ghaziabad, Lucknow and Varanasi and instructed on the several lines. Meanwhile, during the last 24 hours, 836 new cases of COVID-19 were reported in the state and only 165 were cured. MS Yadav, AIR News, Lucknow.
In Odisha, more than 73,000 beneficiaries were vaccinated against the COVID-19 in 882 session sites yesterday. Among them, more than 61,000 were senior citizens. The state has administered more than 20 lakh doses of vaccines to the beneficiaries so far. More from our Bhubaneswar correspondent.
The state yesterday reported 214 fresh cases, which is more than double the per-day case detection just about a week ago. With the number of people recovering from COVID-19 hanging below 100 per day for the last few days, the active caseload has further spiked to 1,151, which again is almost double the number of active infections in the state about a week back. Given these, the state has geared up measures to arrest any second wave of infection in the state that includes putting restrictions on public celebrations of upcoming Holi, while still increasing surveillance on people coming from the states already red flagged for COVID-19 officers. Girish Chandra Das, AIR News, Bhubaneswar.
In Gujarat, the state government will ramp up the daily vaccination up to 3 lakh in view of the rising cases in the state. Chief Minister Vijay Rupani told media that daily vaccination will be enhanced from the current 2.25 lakh to 3 lakh in order to increase the coverage. Our correspondent reports that the state reported 1,961 new cases in the last 24 hours. More from our correspondent.
The state is witnessing record rise in COVID-19 cases every day. Surat and Ahmedabad together accounted for 60% of the new cases reported yesterday. Surat reported 628 new cases, followed by Ahmedabad with 558 cases. As many as 7 patients died due to COVID-19 yesterday, while 1,405 patients were discharged after recovery. More than 1,90,000 persons received vaccine shots yesterday. So far, over 44,84,000 beneficiaries have been administered COVID-19 vaccines in the state. Meanwhile, the government employees in the state will be treated as frontline corona warriors and will be given COVID-19 vaccine shots without age bars. Aparna Khun, AR News, Ahmedabad.
India will continue to supply COVID-19 vaccines to partner countries over the coming weeks and months in a phased manner. Official sources said India has not imposed any ban on exports of vaccines, unlike many other countries. More than 60 million doses of made-in-India vaccines have been supplied to over 75 countries so far. No other country has supplied the world with as many doses as India has supplied so far. India commenced domestic COVID-19 vaccination program on the 16th of January this year, and within days it also commenced external supplies. United States President Joe Biden has said that US and its allies will hold Beijing accountable on Taiwan, South China Sea and other issues. He said US will never back down from speaking out about what is happening to Uyghur Muslims in China and what is happening in Hong Kong. The US President said he thinks that Chinese President Xi Jinping does not have a democratic bone in his body. Mr. Biden said China's overall goal is to become the leading country in the world, but asserted it won't happen under his watch.
We're not looking for confrontation, although we know there will be steep competition. Two, that we'll have strong competition, but we'll insist that China play by the international rules, fair practices, fair trade. And earlier this month, and apparently it got the Chinese attention, that's not why I did it, I met with our allies and how we're going to hold China accountable in the region. Australia, India, Japan, and the United States, the so-called Quad. And so we're going to make it clear that in order to deal with these things, we are going to hold China accountable to follow the rules, whether it relates to the South China Sea or the North China Sea or the agreement made on Taiwan or a whole range of other things. And as long as you and your country continues to so blatantly violate human rights, we are going to continue in an unrelenting way to call to the attention of the world.
The US President held his first press conference since assuming office and made an ambitious pledge of administering 200 million vaccine shots in 100 days.
US and UK have imposed new sanctions on military-owned conglomerates in Myanmar in response to the military coup. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said America is taking its most significant action to date to impose costs on the military regime. The US is designating two entities linked to the coup leaders, Myanmar Economic Holdings Public Company Limited, MEHL, and the Myanmar Economic Corporation Limited, MEC. In Israel, the Central Election Commission has said that with 100% of votes counted, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's right-wing Likud party and his natural allies had won 52 seats in the 120-seat Knesset. An ideologically diverse array of parties have won 57 seats. In a surprise development, an Arab party, the United Arab List, also known by the Hebrew name RAM, secured 4 seats.
In order to give wide dissemination to the theme of Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat, with special focus on art and architecture of Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh and Tamil Nadu, Press Information Bureau and Regional Outreach Bureau, Jammu, organized a webinar on the theme with PIB and ROB Chennai. The objectives of the Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat program is to celebrate the unity in diversity of our nation, to promote the spirit of national integration, to showcase the rich heritage and culture, customs and traditions of either state for enabling people to understand and appreciate the diversity of India. More from our Jammu correspondent.
During the webinar, Deputy Director PIB and ROB Jammu, Neha Jalali, said that though the pandemic had restricted field outreach but had opened up new vistas for increasing digital footprints of government departments, especially in terms of information dissemination and outreach online. Conservation Assistant, Dogra Art Museum, Jammu, Kripal Singh, threw light on Basoli painting, block printing of Samba, Krimchi temples and historic forts of Jammu like Mubarak Mandi, Bahu Fort, etc., as art and architecture of the area. Professor Shaukat Karju of Department of Paintings and Fine Arts, University of Kashmir, spoke on Nakashi, Meenakari, Papermashi, woodworks and other arts of Kashmir region. Besides, Tashi Moro, Project Director, Ladakh Arts and Media Organization, informed the participants via a PPT about prehistoric, Bronze Age, Iron Age, pre-Tibetan Buddhist rock arts and Tibetan Buddhist art post the second and third diffusion of Buddhism in Tibet. Dr. D. Anuradha, HOD, History Department, Loyal College, Chennai, shed light on the architecture from Sangam Age, Pallavas, Pandyas, Cholas, Vijayanagar and Naik architecture. And Gulshan Rana, AIR News, Jammu.
Indian shuttlers Kidambi Srikanth, Saina Nehwal and Ira Sharma advanced to the quarterfinals of the Orleans Masters Badminton Tournament in Paris last night. The top-seeded Srikanth beat Chin Jungwei of Malaysia 21-17, 22-20 in a men's singles third-round match, while London Olympics bronze medalist Saina prevailed over France's Marie Bertoman 18-21, 21-15, 21-10 in the women's singles second-round match. Ira, ranked 162, made it to the last 8 after beating Bulgaria's world number 71, Maria Mitsova, 21-18, 21-13. In cricket, the second ODI of the three-match series between India and England will be played in Pune today. The match is scheduled to begin at 1:30 p.m. Rampaging Indian team will aim to seal off another series victory, and England will look to level the series and stay alive in the contest. India won the first ODI by 66 runs. The third and the final ODI will take place on Sunday.
Now let us take a look at the weather forecast for today. National capital Delhi is likely to experience strong surface winds during daytime. The maximum temperature will be around 32 degrees Celsius. The minimum was 18 degrees. Srinagar will have mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening, with the temperature hovering between 5 and 16 degrees Celsius. Jammu and Leh will have mainly clear sky. Leh's maximum temperature will be around 11 degrees, while the minimum was -2 degrees. Gilgit and Muzaffarabad will also have a mainly clear sky. In Gilgit, the upper limit of temperature will be around 21 degrees Celsius, while Muzaffarabad's maximum would be nearly 22 degrees.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. All the dailies lead with the headline of alarming rise in COVID cases in the country. Cases to peak in mid-April. Jab for all, the only solution, writes the Pioneer. RBI stays with forecast, says surge won't impact growth, reports the Indian Express. The Asian Age quotes the Supreme Court batting for female officers in the army, saying army criteria for permanent commission to women officers is discriminatory. With housing sales in NCR and other cities up 29%, surpassing pre-COVID levels, the Economic Times notes top 7 cities join house party as sales rebound. A move aimed at allaying fears of bankers going slow on lending. The Hindustan Times reports about the government considering having the CBI look into some extraordinary bank frauds. And finally, the Tribune mentions about the successful implementation of Har Haath Ko Kaam initiative by the prison department to cultivate the spirit of co-ownership under the headline, Sharing Profit of Goods Sold with Jail Inmates.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi leaves for Dhaka on a 2-day visit to Bangladesh. Says India shares deep cultural, linguistic and people-to-people ties with Bangladesh. First phase of assembly elections to be held in Assam and West Bengal tomorrow. BJP releases list of 11 candidates for Lok Sabha and Assembly by-polls. Former Mumbai Police Commissioner moves Bombay High Court seeking CBI probe against Maharashtra Home Minister Anil Deshmukh. CBI conducts searches at more than 100 places across the country in connection with bank fraud amounting to over 3,700 crore rupees. New Delhi says India will continue to supply COVID-19 vaccines to partner countries in a phased manner. US President Joe Biden says America and its allies will hold Beijing accountable on Taiwan, South China Sea and other issues. US and UK impose new sanctions on military-owned companies in Myanmar in response to military coup. Indian shuttlers Kidambi Srikanth, Saina Nehwal and Ira Sharma advanced to quarterfinals of Orleans Masters Badminton in Paris. And in cricket, India take on England in second ODI in Pune this afternoon. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a nice day.